Last night, I went live on the streaming channel and we talked about a YouTuber who thought it would be a great idea to make a video and put it behind a $3 paywall on Patreon where she's discussing some true crime situation, and for some reason it was in her mind to fully have the dead body of a little boy just for anybody to see, and all they would have to do is pay $3. And of course, when people found out, they were understandably upset, and we had varying degrees of excuses peddled out by this YouTuber. True crime YouTuber slammed for charging to see autopsy photos of a murdered 11-year-old boy. A true crime YouTuber who goes by Zav Girl is facing backlash for selling autopsy photos of a preteen boy from Colorado on her Patreon account. News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Etten reported Tuesday that Zav Girl obtained the gruesome photos of the 11-year-old Gannon Stauch, who was stabbed and shot by his own stepmom in 2020 by submitting a Freedom of Information Act request. Etten said whoever ran Zav Girl's Patreon account then released the photos on her page, charging $3. Her Patreon account has since been removed. It's sick, it's deranged, and you should just own up to it, Etten said on Tuesday. Whoever you are, wherever you live, maybe get out from behind your computer screen, go to the local courthouse, and actually sit through a murder trial and see what it's like for the families in real life. Zav Girl addressed the criticism in a lengthy statement posted in the community section of her channel, which is this in and of itself. Hey guys, I wanted to address what's going on right now with the Gannon autopsy coroner video I created. Unfortunately, this seems to be something where people are very divided on how they feel about it, and I'm hearing a lot from both sides. The reality of the situation is that people feel differently about this. Some people genuinely think making a video including the autopsy photos is bad, which it is, and I respect their opinion and feelings. Other people, like myself, think of autopsy photos and the coroner explaining them as interesting and informative, and are able to view it all in a more scientific, detached way. Ladies and gentlemen, what type of scientific conversation are you going to have broadcasting a kid's dead body on Patreon for $3? I'll wait. I flunked science a few times, but I'll wait for the scientific hypothesis that we can garner from seeing a kid's dead body, because that make no fucking sense to me. It's just one of those things where it depends on the person. I'm not adamantly against taking down the video if people are truly unhappy with it, and I will be absolutely considering doing that. But right now, it seems that there are a lot of other people who are acting in bad faith and creating lies for fun and excitement in order to pit others against me. If you've heard the latest rumor that I've been distributing photos of Gannon's genitalia, I assure you I have not, and his genitalia isn't available in any of the autopsy photos in the autopsy or coroner's video, which, glad, because if you are somebody who's going to spend X amount of time letting it be known that, hey guys, I'm gonna make a video and I'm gonna have it be about murder situation, and I'm going to start broadcasting this kid's dead body on my Patreon for $3, at least I'm glad you're not showing his nutsack. So it's a bit difficult to sort through what's what when there are other creators who have the same autopsy photos right there on their YouTube for public viewing on their channels, where anyone can stumble across them, and they are not being attacked as I am right now. It becomes obvious that some of this hate I'm receiving is not genuine and is being done for other reasons. YouTube drama gets clicks. I understand some of you have issues with me charging money on Patreon for the video. If I was charging money for the autopsy files alone or something like that, I'd see your point. But in this case, I spent a lot of time and I worked hard putting together a video lining up the coroner's audio and descriptions along with the appropriate part of the photos she is describing and editing it together to try and make it as informative as possible for the viewer. That is what I'm charging for, which is why I hope you can agree it's understandable. Absolutely, it's perfectly understandable for somebody to be so bored to think, hey, no one's gonna have a problem with this because I'm working hard as a content creator to sit in front of a microphone and say all these words and then have my editor edit the videos, and then we're gonna spend all this time doing research when you can just do it via Google without the fucking kid's body. None of this would be an issue for me, and I'm actually a little bit annoyed, and I'm being more animated than I would usually be because this just caught me off guard. How somebody can spend all this time as a YouTuber being a true true crime individual and you don't see a problem with people actually being mad, you're charging $3 to see a kid's dead body. If you just had descriptors, if you even just had an image of the child smiling like most news stations do, this wouldn't be an issue. But the fact that you trying to equate it to YouTube drama genuinely pisses me off, because how do you get off thinking, yeah, I can kind of see all of your points about criticizing me, but I'm someone who worked hard on my content and I feel offended and a little bit mad that a few of you are bothering me with this nonsense, and I'm gonna have to really think about taking down this video. Thank you to those who have reached out to me with your take on it in a respectful way, who understand this is simply a bit of a gray area as to what is socially acceptable and what isn't. This is not a gray area. I know I'm small in a corner down here, but I have to emphasize so that y'all can see I'm not lying when I read this entire post. This is not a gray area. This is something simply nobody should be doing. And she's not even the only one who's doing it. And what made it weirder was that there was another YouTuber who was currently going live as I went live, talking about her explanation as to how this whole situation affects her.
And it doesn't matter if a case is solved or not, because I've heard that 9,000 times.
I mean, it does matter if a case is solved, because what's the point of you talking about it then?
I can see already that this isn't going to work, so I'm going to turn the comments off. Y'all want to be jackasses and you don't want to listen to what I have to say,
before I get the chance to grill you, bitch! Don't you fucking run from me!
I'm not dealing with it tonight.
Don't you fucking run from me!
I've said this 900 times that
I've been subscribed for only 1 minute.
You're welcome here as long as you're respectful.
I'm gonna be respectful. I just gotta question the ass.
But if you're not, selective outrage is astonishing with this. What about them being shown in the courtroom during the trial?
Oh my!
And how many channels streamed them and made money from it? My channel's not monetized.
Madam, let me break something down for you. In the courtroom, they're using that as evidence to prove who is guilty and who is innocent. What? No. So look, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not even a police officer that stands up and was like, here's what we go do in the courtroom today. In court, they use photos as evidence to prove if somebody is guilty of doing something or not, to further elaborate a timeline of events, to prove that whoever might just so happen to be the victim, or if the person vandalized property, they use those pictures in court as evidence. You can't compare that to YouTubers talking about it for money and hiding it behind a Patreon. I'm sorry, but no. I haven't seen her. She disabled the chat. Man, fuck no.
There is something, though, that I am sorry for. And what I'm sorry for is how I wrote out the coverage that I was going to do. I can see how in what I wrote, it does sound, if you don't know me.
No, if I don't know you,
how it does sound like I could be selling photographs.
Oh.
And that could not be further from the case.
Okay. You're not selling photographs. She's not selling photographs.
I chose to do it on Patreon.
You selling photographs!
Because I knew that if I did it on YouTube, it would be reported and it would be taken down.
So she's not selling photographs. She's selling this shit on Patreon, which counteracts the fucking first statement. So she knows doing this shit on YouTube will get her in trouble.
You want to talk about monopolizing on a child's death? What about all of the channels right now who are using Gannon's name to talk about this? All of those channels are monetized. They're getting super chat.
I'ma stop you right there, Mademoiselle Datu, because I feel like somebody might see me doing this and say, Leon, Ain't you doing the exact same thing you bitching about with this woman and this other person? You know the difference between me reacting to people apparently selling videos with autopsy photos behind Patreon as compared to the person selling the videos on Patreon who have a track record of knowing if they broadcast those photos on YouTube, they're going to get in trouble? I'm not using a dead kid's body for Patreon subscriptions. Oops.
Who think that I just put up a link that went to autopsy pictures or that I had just posted autopsy pictures. No, that is not what I did. And I went back after the fact and I watched the day that the crime scene photos and the autopsy photos were shown in court. And there is not one picture that I showed that wasn't shown in court.
Please don't do it again. Please don't.
Not one.
You are not the court.
The difference is I cropped them.
Oh my God, that's not the difference.
I did show pictures of the body where the
wounds were. That's what I wanted. Bow, that's what I wanted. You stupid fuck. Now we wait.
Well, Rue and Leon, didn't those same people who streamed that trial make money from streaming those pictures?
I'm talking about the court case.
If they hadn't been streamed, that would be one thing. But news stations streamed the trial.
I'm talking about the court.
I'm talking about the picture.
I'm talking about in the courtroom. I'm talking
So
about in
what's
the
the
courtroom.
difference?
Pictures of the state in which Gannon's body was discovered were shown in court during Stoner's trial, but were not in view of the public. What? But this woman said, as she tried to compare her doing this on Patreon to people live streaming the court case, that people were showing the body. Let me read that again. Pictures of the state in which Gannon's body was discovered were shown in court during Stoner's trial, but were not in view of the public, which the judge presiding over the case noting that the case was the most horrific thing I have ever seen. Last month, a YouTuber on the platform known as Zav Girl said she obtained Gannon's autopsy report, including graphic pictures, through a Freedom of Information Act request. For anybody who's gonna sit here and make varying degrees of excuses for this, number one, don't put this stuff behind a paywall because it makes you look scummy. Number two, if you're going to be someone who is of the true crime content, you can talk about this stuff. You can have fully documentary style series without showing full dead bodies, especially behind a paywall. Spare me the talk of we have to have the truth out there in this world because people need to see. You can still tell that truth without showing those dead bodies. Scientifically, they could have used body diagrams that the autopsy also included instead of putting out Gannon's just completely broken body that reflects the depravity and the horror that he had to live through and suffered. It's outright disgusting. Ladies and gentlemen, the smoking gun for all of this is just written words on a random article that is on, of all things, Microsoft Start. Just keep that in mind. I'm glad this one YouTuber had her Patreon taken down, whether it be because of this entire situation or because of all the guilt that made her delete her own Patreon. And I'm glad this other woman is facing criticism for this. And anybody else, whether if you're doing it on YouTube or behind a paywall and you are showing this kid's dead body as a means to say, I'm trying to get the information out there, I want everyone to see all of this. Guess what? You deserve to be criticized because what gives you the right to broadcast that thinking you are somebody credible, especially if you are someone who's talking about true crime, which 9 times out of 10, y'all talking about a bunch of old shit which you can't even solve. And just because I'm petty, if you are somebody who's using tarot cards to go around and say, I know who's behind any murder case going on in my mind because I'm a psycho babbling bitch who's bored out of my mind. Yes, we still have not seen any proof that that woman is correct in any capacity. It is weird how clout judges how how we dictate how we move. If we want to go the route of being someone informative, we have to go the dumbest route. And when the criticism comes, nobody wants to say, you know what? I'm going to take it on the chin and I'm going to do a little bit better next time. It equally makes me mad that this second woman was fully aware that doing this is a problem and decided to sneakily put it behind a paywall. At the end of the day, I don't really put too much stock in all these wannabe investigative true crime journalists, because all they are just like me, online content creators who 9 times out of 10, unless they are somebody affiliated with news stations, courtrooms, or police, have no power or control and will continue to muddy the water and embarrass whatever situation they care about. And that's all I really got to say. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye. And yes, a few of you have never seen me that mad.